Welcome to our summary of Hamlet, and in this video I'll talk you through all you need to know about the tragedy of Hamlet, and more particularly why this play continues to have such a strong resonance with audiences today. Firstly, before we begin, did you know this fun fact? For those of you who, like me, loved The Lion King growing up, you might be surprised to learn that this Disney film in particular is a dramatization of Hamlet. So although The Lion King has been adapted from the original Shakespeare play, it essentially mimics the play's main elements. So a king, Mufasa, is betrayed and killed by his brother, Scar, and it's down to his son, Simba, to avenge him. So although the setting and the characters are obviously different, the core elements of The Lion King remain the same as Hamlet. But thankfully, The Lion King does have a happy ending. So going back to the play, Hamlet is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare at an uncertain date between 1599 and 1602. So set in Denmark, this play dramatises the revenge Prince Hamlet is called to wreak upon his uncle Claudius by the ghost of Hamlet's father, King Hamlet. So Claudius had murdered his own brother and seized the throne, and he also married Gertrude, who's Hamlet's mother and King Hamlet's widow. So Hamlet is known as Shakespeare's longest play, and it's considered among the most powerful and influential works in the world of literature. Now, I've mentioned this before, it's called officially The Tragedy of Hamlet, and the reason why Hamlet is classified as a tragedy is because it's a play which features a main character, Hamlet, who's noble and a good person at heart. However, due to a flaw in their character, so the hamartia that they have, they make a series of mistakes which ultimately leads to their downfall. And Hamlet in this story is a tragic character, and his hamartia is that he is somebody that procrastinates and he is unable to act until it's too late. So now going into the summary of the play itself. Hamlet is the Prince of Denmark, and his father, who's also a little bit confusingly named Hamlet, so King Hamlet, has recently died, and this is how the story opens. And there's a group of watchmen outside the castle who see a ghost that looks much like the dead king. Meanwhile, we meet the new king, King Claudius, who is the brother of the late King Hamlet, and he's married the queen, so King Hamlet's own wife, Gertrude. We also meet Polonius, who's a lord, a very pompous one, and his children Laertes and Ophelia. And we learn that Ophelia is Hamlet's lover. Hamlet also goes to find the ghost and he sees that it looks like his father and he speaks to it. This ghost reveals to him that his father was murdered by his brother, the new king Claudius, and Hamlet decides to pretend to be mad so he can get revenge without his family becoming suspicious. Some players come to the castle one day to perform a play, and Hamlet decides to write them a play to perform about a man killing his brother for the throne in hopes that the play will bother Claudius and make him feel guilty, which will then be a sign to Hamlet that he is indeed guilty of killing his father. The play does frighten Claudius, and Polonius follows Hamlet and his mother as they leave. So Hamlet, clearly sees Claudius's reaction and he also gets angry. Polonius hides behind a tapestry as they talk in his mother's bedroom, and he suddenly makes a noise and Hamlet stabs him, scared and surprised. The wound kills Polonius, and because there's such a hoo-ha caused by it, Hamlet is sent away to England for his safety, supposedly. Laertes hears that his father has been killed, so Laertes was in Paris for studies, but then he decides to return to Denmark. And news comes that Hamlet's ship was captured by pirates, so the ship that he was on heading to England, and he's also returning to Denmark. Laertes, who is really angry at this stage, and he learns that Hamlet is the one responsible for killing his own father, devises a plan to get revenge on him. And him and Claudius decide that Laertes will challenge Hamlet to a duel. They'll poison the sword so it will kill him much more easily. And if that doesn't work, they'll give Hamlet a poisoned drink afterwards to congratulate him for winning. Meanwhile, we find that Ophelia, so Polonius's daughter and Hamlet's love interest, has gone mad since her father's death, and she drowns herself. And there's a funeral for her just as Hamlet returns home. He sees the grave diggers, but he does not know whose grave they're digging. This is where the famous skull scene comes from. And when he finds out it is Ophelia who's being buried, he becomes incredibly upset. Hamlet and Laertes then have their duel. So Laertes challenges Hamlet, and Hamlet wins the first round, but he refuses to drink from the poison drink. And instead, Gertrude, his mother, takes a sip before Claudius can stop her, and she dies. Laertes then stabs Hamlet with a poisoned sword, and Hamlet retaliates, killing both Laertes and Claudius. And we're left with all of the main characters gone because Hamlet himself also dies. And at the end, we hear that the Norwegian forces are attacking, and Hamlet says that the Norwegian prince will be the next king. So Fortinbras becomes the next king. So now on to the main characters. So firstly, we have Hamlet, who's the protagonist of our story. He is the prince whose dead father had the same name, so King Hamlet, and is very disturbed and haunted by his father's death. We then have King Claudius, or Claudius. He's the late King Hamlet's brother who murdered him for the throne and remarried his wife. We also have Gertrude, who is Hamlet's mother and the late King Hamlet's father, and she married Claudius soon after King Hamlet's death. We then have Polonius, so he's a lord who keeps allegiances to Claudius, but he's also known as very pompous and is often mocked by Hamlet. There's Laertes and Ophelia. They are both the son and daughter of Polonius, and Ophelia is Hamlet's love interest. Laertes is a foil to Hamlet, so he's somebody who is used within the play to highlight Hamlet's own shortcomings. And unlike Hamlet, who procrastinates when it comes to avenging his own dead father, Laertes is very quick to seek revenge when his father Polonius dies. Fortinbras is the Prince of Norway, and he takes over Denmark when the entire royal family dies at the end. So the main themes, the first major theme is death, because death is manifested physically and spiritually throughout the play. The play begins with death, so the wandering ghost of King Hamlet, and it ends with death, so the entire royal family dies. In the way King Hamlet appears in his ghost, the swords, the stabbing, the graveyard, the play is completely pervaded by death. Hamlet also contemplates killing himself in the very famous To Be or Not to Be scene, and he reflects on whether it would be right or wrong to commit suicide. And Ophelia actually successfully commits suicide. And obviously, one of the most famous lines from the play is to be or not to be. The other major theme is the theme of madness, and madness is in some ways linked to death. So Ophelia went mad before she died. Hamlet pretended to go mad after his father's ghost came to him, and Hamlet pretends to go mad, but as the play progresses, we can't really tell if it's still an act or if he's pretending to be mad and this pretentious attitude has actually driven him mad. So we as the audience are never entirely sure. So that's all. Thank you for listening to this video. If you found it useful, do give us a thumbs up, and also do subscribe to our channel for much more educational videos and free revision sheets. Thank you so much for listening.